Alright, hi and welcome back to another war movie review. So this time we have Rukajärven Tie, made 1999, or as it's called in English, Ambush, or The Ambush, or as I've also seen, Ambush 1941. Anyway, Rukajärven Tie in Finnish means either the road to Rukajärvi or the Rukajärvi Road, made 1999, directed by Olli Saarela, and starring Peter Franzén and Irina Björklund. So, the movie takes place 1941 during the Finnish Continuation War. Our main character, Peter Franzén, and his platoon have just arrived to a newly conquered village. Here, it turns out that his fiancée, who is serving in the Women's Auxiliary Corps, the Lotta, they have also turned up in the same village, and they should not be in the front lines. Unsurprisingly, our main character goes to his commander and tells him about this. But they have a lot to do right now and few resources. So his commander tells him that they need a platoon to do a recon mission. In here it's kind of hinted that if he does this mission, his wife gets to be sent back home to Finland and away from the many dangers of being in the front lines. But this mission is about plugging a hole in the Finnish front lines. And the commander here again tells him that it's super secret and only he can know this information, but they have no idea how many Russians are in this area that are going to. So this could be almost like a suicide mission. He tells him that it could be over 100,000 Russians or thousands of Russians. They have no idea. But our main character accepts this mission. Peter Franzén and his platoon are sent away on the recon mission. But his fiancée, on her way back to Finland, their convoy gets attacked and ambushed by Russian partisans, and she is taken captured by them, the only survivor. And when the news eventually reach our main character, they think she's dead, as everyone else was killed in the ambush. And with this knowledge, he gets distracted in his mission. And this is, I guess, you could say the core of the film. Our main character and his platoon and their journey towards their destination to recon this front line. For the remainder of the mission, Peter Franzén becomes totally indifferent to his and his platoon's safety. What do I think of this movie? Well, to be honest, I did not really like this movie. There's a lot of problems, but let's deal with the negatives later. I'll start with the things I liked about this movie. And first of all, what I did like was the cinematography. There's some really nice shots in this movie. Large landscapes with a lot of actors, or also just the overall nature you see in this movie. It really shows off the nature of Northeastern Europe. Overall, it's a really nice looking movie, and the same goes when it comes to props and everything else used when it comes to building up 1941. All the stuff looks really good, and I really like that they used blanks and squibs in their overall fighting. Another detail I liked is that it shows off the use of bicycles. It's not often you hear about the use of bicycles in the military, but bicycles have been widely used by many militaries throughout history. So from the 1900s all the way up to 2003, when the Swiss Army reformed its last 3 bicycle infantry regiments. And I have not seen many movies showing off this type of bicycle unit. The only other one I know of is April 9th, which is a Danish war film that takes place, April 9th, 1940, when the German army invades Denmark. And the acting in this movie is also really good. All the actors do their job, everyone feels believable in their roles, and most of the characters as well are distinct and stand out and have different personalities. And there's a lot of historical nuances as well in some of the dialogue. For example, in one scene, we have the platoon meeting Karelian native people, which is its own distinct ethnic Finnic group that there are around maybe 40,000 of today, and also a language that is slowly dying out, unfortunately. As well, one of the characters in the platoon being formerly in the Red Guards during the Finnish Civil War. Again, showing a lot of detail and historical knowledge about these characters and where they are as well. And as well, I like the music and sound of this movie. The overall soundtrack reminds me of a Finnish tango or even Jan Sibelius. and it gives an overall nice vibe to the overall film. But that's also where the good stuff ends. And again, there's a lot of good stuff here. But the biggest problem of this film is the overall plot, really. I'm just going to have to spoil the movie from here. If you don't want the movie spoiled, I'll put a time and where I stop talking about the overall spoilers. Here you go. So, anyway, the biggest problem here is that the plot really doesn't go anywhere. So, our platoon make it to the destination they're supposed to go to. And what happens there? Well, nothing. This overall build-up and stuff that they've been talking about, oh, there's going to be a Russians coming, or there's hundreds of thousands of them, or even 1,000 of them, leads nowhere. Throughout the movie, we're kind of been expecting this to lead to some type of, I don't know, final fight or final stand. They make it there, and then they just get orders to rejoin with the rest of the army. And that's it. Throughout the overall journey of our platoon, they've encountered, or we've seen hints of this partisan activity around them. In one scene, our platoon leader just sends away one of his soldiers because he lost his bike to go all the way back home to base alone. And as expected, he gets killed off immediately by the partisans. And in other parts of the journey, we see the partisans following them, and even at one point have them in a perfect ambush. We got our main platoon just walking in big groups over this one small planked area, and they have the sights on top of them. But then the partisans just retreat without any reason whatsoever. So we can expect them maybe to return later in greater numbers. Maybe that's why they didn't attack. But no, when our main characters come to the overall reconnaissance place, they just leave one of the wounded behind and run away. And that's the last time we see these partisans. So this partisan subplot as well goes nowhere. The final act of the movie is pretty much just after they've done all this reconnaissance, or they don't actually do any reconnaissance whatsoever. Most of the time they just walk around, or when they make it to the village they're supposed to go to, they just sit around, light fires that could be seen from all over the place, and then they get orders to rejoin back to the main army. But it turns out that there's enemy forces between them and the main army. And they, instead of, I guess, walking around them, decide to just force themselves through the enemy front lines from behind. So without any build-up whatsoever, we get this final fight happening. But again, there's no real stakes or anything because it just comes out of nowhere, this overall final fight. And most of it is just them running and eventually making it to the other side, and some of the main characters dying. Even at that, very few of them actually do die of the main characters. He's back at the base, and his fiancée turns up, either escaping from the partisans or we don't know, but she's been through a lot of trauma. They get reunited, and then the movie ends. So for, I would say, 80% of the movie, his fiancée is not even part of it. She's in the beginning and the end. And you're kind of sold on this overall love story between them, but you don't really get to see any of it except for some flashbacks as well. And what I also didn't like is the overall, I guess you could say, tactics and the overall fighting of this movie. Our main character and his platoon are supposed to be Winter War veterans, so they should know what they're doing. But for most of the movie, they're just walking around in big clumps that could be easily taken out by a single grenade or a machine gunner. They walk around like an armed mob, constantly arguing with each other and not listening to orders, doing weird decisions like sending out both of their machine gunners to cross a bridge that could easily be ambushed, and just lighting up fires in the middle of the forest, having large dinners without anyone guarding. And at one point even capture a Russian partisan, but instead of asking him for intel, they just kill him off. And the overall fighting is just insane. Like the final fight is just them running in slow motion. And I'm telling you, for almost every shot in this final fight, there's a big explosion behind our main character. And I'm telling you, this goes on and on and on. Them running, screaming and shooting without any tactics, and a big fiery explosion. So it kind of gives me vibes of Wind Talkers when it comes to the combat scenes. So the overall vibe or theme of the movie is really hard to know what they were going for. Were they going for action? Were they going for drama or love? Or as these are all fictional characters and a fictional story, so it's not about telling an historical event. What's the overall message of this movie, which doesn't really come out clearly at all. So this is a movie that has a lot of potential or had a lot of potential. The overall production, the actors, the cinematography, the props, everything is there to make a great movie, but the plot is the biggest problem, and the overall tactics and the way that people behave is the biggest problems this movie have. So in a way, it's kind of a sad movie to watch because you can see the potential, you can see the effort they've put into this, but it all leads to nothing. So that's why I can't recommend this movie. You're better off going watching The Unknown Soldier or even Tali Hantala or any other movie takes place during the Finnish continuation war or winter war if you're interested in that. Otherwise, when it comes to reviews that I have planned, I'm planning on making a review for Masters of the Air. It's going to take a while, but I'm not going to make it episode by episode like I tried with the Pacific. And if you guys want to, I can try to finish the Pacific series. So if you want that, comment. And otherwise, if there's other movies you want me to review, please comment and I'll try to check them out. And yeah, thanks for watching.